Today is a special episode. We got Brandon Kempter, who has been renowned to be one of the most prolific Australian natural bodybuilders. But more importantly, he is one, if not my closest mentor. I work with Brandon, and he has taught me a lot about bodybuilding, specifically natural bodybuilding. And I think looking back at the podcast, he deserved a little bit more of an introduction, something I need to get a little bit better at. But Brandon has pretty much, like you said, been bodybuilding since I think 2013 was his first show. And not only has he been a very successful natural bodybuilder in terms of accolades, but he has brought a lot of awareness and other great athletes to stage. And as a result, he has created a more well-informed, positive, higher caliber natural bodybuilding community, specifically in Australia. And for that, he is a big inspiration to me. And those are some things I sort of want to take on for myself. And not only that, he is an absolute animal in the gym and when it comes to dieting as well, as I'm sure you could all tell with regards to the condition he's able to bring on stage. Like, that is not something that you're able to achieve with a lackluster effort. So without further ado, please enjoy this episode. We're hoping to do more regular episodes. Hey mate, nice to meet you.
How you doing? Oh mate, absolute pleasure.
We got Mr. BK on the podcast
Absolute
today.
pleasure. Absolute pleasure to be here. Yes.
How's the morning in Bali today?
It is fantastic. It is a nice, crisp by Bali standards morning at 7 a.m. Usually we have a nice 3-hour time difference, but since daylight savings is, has vacated, we're now working with 2 hours, which to be fair is pretty bloody workable. So it's 7 a.m. at the moment, and life is good.
Yeah. It's getting pretty busy for you, right, in terms of workload at the moment, coming into competition season?
Yeah, it certainly is. We're now coming into, as you know, season A. These guys are most of the guys are a week or two out, and now we have season B and C. So the guys competing in June, July are also in the thick of their respective contest preparations, and the guys doing the back end of the year are just winding on as well. So this section here really represents the most dense portion of the year in reference to the volume of people within our team that are in their respective contest preparations. But it's also one of the most exciting periods of the year as well. It's just such a cool flow going from season A, these guys railing at season B, and then it just flows on to the back end of the year. So very excited.
Well, we haven't had bodybuilding for a little bit, over Christmas and then start of the year. It's sort of pretty quiet. And then it's like, bodybuilding's back, shows are back, let's go.
For us, that's the quiet period, right? So we kind of like recharge, get ready to roll. Because, come April, it's just on all the way through, especially with the international shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when I first sort of started to delve into the natural bodybuilding scene, it didn't take very long for your name to come up. And just through learning more and more, it was Nathan was a big part in your development, would you say? As not only
definitely.
a bodybuilder, but a coach. And that was something that I was like, oh no, BK is like one of the GOATs. And then it's like, you got Nathan Wallace and he's been there for, an extra big chunk of time. How did you and Nathan come across?
Yeah, so, I started competing in 2013. My first show was the A and B show, and the week after that was the INBA, which is now ICN. And it wasn't actually, I'm trying to think, I think 2013, Nathan did compete then actually. And Nathan won the overall for the Queensland show, went on to nationals, won that, narrowly missed, controversially may I add, the A&B nationals, of which I was also in attendance at. To be fair, that season we didn't have a whole lot, we didn't have much of an opportunity to connect, but in the time that followed, my girlfriend at the time was doing some coaching with Nathan, and when Nathan opened his gym, we spoke and we said, okay, cool. What can we, so we spoke about some opportunities to sort of come together there. And I actually moved from, at the time, the Sunshine Coast to the Gold Coast to operate out of Nathan's facility. And that's where our friendship and our coaching relationship developed. And Nathan's definitely, I would say, one of the greatest for natural bodybuilding and a real pioneer of his time in reference to the conditioning standard and the outright mass that a natural athlete could bring to the table. And to be fair, for me coming up, I recall there were so many people around and, in my circle saying like, Nathan, that can't be natural. It's just impossible to be this good. And, spending time around Nathan was just the coolest thing because it's like when we spend time together and you see how, everyone operates at the highest level, and then you see why. Oh, this makes sense. Why this person is this good. I mean, yes, there is a hereditary base there, but the manner in which Nathan was just so in sync at the time, and the intensity of which this gentleman could train at was incredible. And it allowed me to reference my intensity, and this is something which plays out throughout our coaching also. But yeah, he was an incredible athlete then, still is, may I add, an incredible athlete. He's looking to get back on stage at the end of this year for WMBF Worlds in Canada again. And I'm sure he's going to bring it. And usually we have a bit of a back and forth. So my last season, Nathan played a very significant role there in my prep, get my head screwed on. And in Nathan's last prep, I did the same for him. So it's been a really cool reciprocative relationship,
Yeah. Yeah. And if anyone doesn't know who Nathan is, they should. And he's, I think, of recently 2023, he was at WMBF Worlds.
Was it 23 or 24? I believe it's 24, actually. Same year of which
24,
Steve
yep.
did Worlds. That was in Boston. So,
Boston. That was a late change in venue, I remember as well, if that's correct.
I can't recall. I mean, I booked my flights to go to Worlds about 7 days beforehand. And I do
That
recall
doesn't sound like you, mate.
No. Well, I was on the edge, on the fence there, and Nathan said, come on, let's go. For old time's sake. So we spent a week in Boston, and then I actually got stuck in Korea for 3 nights, sleeping at the airport on the way home due to a snowstorm. So it was an awesome adventure, as Saki was sleeping in the airport for 3 days, and I'm here like, man, how am I going to train here, guys? That was the biggest concern. But the internet was good, so we're all good.
Yeah, yeah, and he did really well. I think you can fill in the gaps, but in terms of the goal for where Nathan was going to situate himself, whether it was like middleweight or heavyweight, there was a bit of some strategic play there.
Yeah, so we ended up in the middleweight division. To be fair, middles are always, every category in the WNBF at that level is very competitive, but middles are particularly competitive because most people are going to be at the highest, at the pro level, are going to be situated in that category. So it's usually
And
the
for
largest.
reference, it's 83.2 kilos and under, I believe, is middleweight, and then above maybe 74 or something along those lines, 72.
Off the top of the dome, I cannot recall because I always have to do the imperial to metric conversion because obviously it's in pounds. And it also differs a little bit between the pro and the amateur, if memory serves correct. Don't quote me on that. But it was incredible. He walked away with a third in that in that category. First was Babacar, of which if you're in the know, you would understand that he is, I'm going to say, a borderline unstoppable competitor for outright size combined with symmetry and proportion. It's a real bodybuilding physique. It's just a wow physique. So he took the first, and then second was Oscar. If you have followed the professor, you followed him. I don't know how he packs on so much muscle on that frame. His arms are quite literally larger than one's head. So an incredible athlete, and to Nathan came in on that third place, which is, again, that's just a testament to how competitive Worlds is at that level. Because in his own right, Nathan is, a force to be reckoned with for sure.
Yeah, and it's like if those two guys don't turn up, Nathan's winning that overall potentially. Depending on
Potentially,
who else
yeah.
turns up. Um, yeah, and the cool thing is, it's not like every year you can have the same guys coming in back to back. You're not going to see. Well, it's very rare to see an actual bodybuilder go 4 or 5 years back to back. And
Unless you're Babacar. I don't
yeah,
know how
unless
that
you're
guy,
back.
he just rolls it through, which
Yeah,
is great.
yeah.
You've just come off a contest preparation not long ago. I mean, could you imagine going back to back? To be fair, it used to be very common. It's just that these days the conditioning standard is so high, you're not dieting for 12 weeks and it's more systemically disruptive. But I mean, could you imagine going back to back?
Not this year. No way. I think there was so many things that like I learned and that maybe we'll implement for next time to where like maybe even start a bit leaner, because that might help get a little bit more conditioning, just make things a little bit smoother. But yeah, no, the recovery was much longer than anticipated, even though you get told, it's not easy, it's not difficult, it will take a certain period of time. I think you like to put out a ratio of is it 2 to 1 at least?
Yeah.
Contest
So the
prep
usual,
to time after in terms of before you go again.
correct. Yeah, yeah. So whatever time you spend in the contest prep, spend 2 times that in the off season plus the next contest preparation. So for most guys, I mean, 18 months is a good leeway to make significant progress and come back. I mean, I do think you can do back-to-back years, and we have a few athletes that do it. It's just that you bottleneck your progression significantly because you're basically just getting into the most productive section of the off-season. Endocrinologically, you're in a great position, and then it's time to diet again. 18 months is great. And to be fair, that's what I had planned for my next season. It's just that we have some other cool things coming up of which
Yeah,
have you require a little shift in the goalpost.
but we'll definitely get into that later. But for anyone watching, we got Oscar on the left, Nathan in the green trunks, and then Babacar smack bang in the middle in the red, which is just like, yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, it was awesome to see. And these guys pumping up backstage. What's really great at
Yeah, you
Worlds
would have
is it
been right
is,
there as well. Hey,
oh yeah. And the cool thing about Worlds is it is truly an international show. I mean, some of these smaller federations talk about, oh, we got Worlds. And I'm like, well, there's 2 countries. That's not Worlds. You go to WMBF Worlds, you generally have 40 plus countries backstage. And the great thing is, you know, it really is, bodybuilding uniting everyone. There's a language barrier there. Babacar doesn't speak a whole lot of English yet. Like everyone's pumping up, smiling, and just cheering one another on. It's just again, this motto that we've recently been sort of having back and forth, which is forged by iron, united by bodybuilding. Like I really think this summarizes the bodybuilding culture because you go to Worlds, it's just so amazing to have you've got Aussies, Kiwis, Germans, everyone from the other 28 or so, countries in the EU, and it's just not to mention the Middle East, etc. It's just wow, it's really cool.
yeah, I definitely. Like, I'm going to compete at Worlds and tossing up whether I go and check it out beforehand as well to get a little bit of that exposure and anticipation build up. Um,
Yeah.
have you been just once?
Well, I've been twice now. Obviously, at 2019, I competed at Worlds, and then 20, obviously with Nath, we went over as well. 2019 was in New York. That was, again, a really international show. The thing with Worlds is that the production value to this point has not been great, to be honest. I'm hoping they step it up. But obviously, we're used to very new countries. Like when you go to a big show in Australia, which to be fair might not be a big show compared to Asia, but even let's say you go to a show in Asia, they're very new countries and they've got a lot to prove. So the production they put on is just wow. And that's one thing that I've been, to be fair, frequently disappointed with at Worlds. We spend our very weak currency and a lot of it to go to the United States. And then, we're competing in a school hall. I'm like, what is this? Like, I'm expecting a full blown auditorium, light to sound, maybe some pyrotechnics. Sometimes we have, pyrotechnics, sparkler machines and that kind of thing. for shows, and I expect this kind of thing for like a Worlds, but in any case, the competition itself in terms of competitors is always steadfast. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I think to be fair, it is starting to improve with things like other federations coming out with natural divisions and creating that competitive environment, which is great. Like we want to see the worlds be that pinnacle, not only athlete caliber but production standards
Yeah,
too, right?
I'm sure they'll pick it up. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I couldn't say why it is how it is. I'm not involved in the organization, but I assume that the top heads in the States probably don't venture out of the States much. Let's just say that. Because some of the work, even like WMBF Malaysia, man, incredible show.
Yeah.
For example, we're going backstage and we've got a full gym set up. The only other shows that I've ever seen that are some of the IFBB shows in Europe, where we've got pin loaded lat pull down machines, dumbbells to like 25 backstage, a cable crossover, etc. Man, do you know how much easier? Of course, how much easier to just get a pump with that versus our crappy bands from Kmart and 4 kilo weights. So, it's that kind of effort that I would love to see at the world level. But I digress.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I want to get into a bit of what drives you in terms of why you're still bodybuilding, why did it start, and some of those maybe your mentors or things that you saw as a young kid coming up, and
Yeah.
how that engine keeps firing.
I mean, look, I started lifting on the my parents' property, of which you happen to have visited. So it's sort of semi remote. Let's just say that. So I started lifting out there with like Besser bricks and a chin up bar that I built. So I went out with the tractor and chopped down a couple of pine trees and made this chin up bar of sorts, concreted it in, and I made a self-spotting rig out there so I could use my little cheap bench press and go to complete failure, and the ropes would catch me at the bottom, so I would crush myself. And that was training for the first couple of years of my career. And then having access to a gym was just such a blessing, even the most basic of facilities. I was like, wow, this is awesome. When I got my license and whatnot, and I actually started competing in 2013 at the ripe age of 19, and it was it was a wonderful experience, and obviously that set the trajectory for my career. Walked in the show not knowing how well I would go, with limited exposure to other competitors, just a love for the game, and had a great result in terms of the look and the placing, and then from there, continued through juniors, opens, and into the pro lineups, I suppose, more recently over the past 13 years of my career. I did have a few mentors, but really the main mentor would be Nathan. He played a very important role. There's a couple other people, worth you mention. To be fair, Mike Debenham on the Sunshine Coast. He's a I suppose you say former IFBB pro. I think he actually renounced his pro card recently, but an incredible gentleman, and at the time a real figurehead for bodybuilding in general, not specifically natural, but bodybuilding in general in the area. Played a pretty substantial role in directing my posing earlier in my career also. And yeah, man, what keeps me going? Look, I got a love for this game, man. I was saying to someone yesterday on a check-in, I said, you know what, there's two of my biggest loves in this world is bodybuilding and my wife. And to be fair, I owe bodybuilding my wife. Is how I met her, right? And to be fair, probably all
So
my
what's
friends
the more
circle.
important be?
Oh, do not ask this question. Do not
Yeah,
put me in
no,
this position.
sorry.
No,
I'll
no,
try
I'm
that.
kidding. But look, it's it's a game that I love, and as you know, in BK conditioning, our mission is to positively contribute to the growth and standard of natural bodybuilding through coaching and mentorship. So to have the opportunity to participate in it, what a blessing. To have the opportunity to share it with others is just an awesome extension of that. And it's really, I think the further you get into your career, and you can probably start to really relate to this now, being a few years deep, is that the deeper you get into your career, the more the process becomes the joy. I mean, it always needs to be, But when you're getting into the advanced levels and you're in the middle of the off season and you stand to gain, a kilo or two across this entire off season duration, right? It's the process that drives you. And, having the opportunity to wake up every day and I walk into Undefeated, our gym, and I'm just like, wow, like, what a blessing to be here in these four walls. And not to mention the people you meet. I mean, you can relate there.
Oh
The
yeah.
community that we have it's just it's something else. It's a solo sport, but it's a team effort, whether it be within your coaching team or the wider community. There's a lot of respect for the work of which, each individual does. And that's a big driving force, surely.
Yeah. Is that component of sharing with others, is that something you learnt from someone, or is that just something
I
that came
suppose,
about?
look, if we have to go right back, I would have learned this from my mother. Now, you've
Yeah.
met my mother. She's one of the most caring, wonderful people. Uh, and I mean, that's a trait from her. She would just give to her community like no other. And, in bodybuilding, I suppose it comes pretty natural. I think that from a coaching perspective, I believe that to make coaching work, you have to approach it almost like an altruistic endeavor. And it's not altruistic by definition because we are remunerated for our work, but it's a matter of giving bottomlessly and not expecting in return. What you get in return is passive in nature. But if you could find joy in that process of giving, if you will, and creating value for those whom you have the pleasure and honor of working with, then that feeds forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think, yeah, look, we're always a product of our environment, so it's cool to be able to find the
Yeah.
links into what was the actual, where was the split in the road that made you that more
Yeah.
coachable individual, not coachable, but someone that can coach others and really has that drive to share with others as well.
Yeah.
And then from the competitive side of things, did you get that maybe from your mother as well, or is your dad playing a little bit of part of this?
Oh yeah, he plays a role too. He's actually staying with me at the moment. He's a bloody
Yeah,
legend. But mum has definitely been. My mother has a lot of the similar, I suppose you could say, hardcore traits that I have. She is an exceptionally tough woman, though like exceptionally giving and loving. But her, she has a background in gymnastics, of which she did for a series of years. Then vaulting, which is basically gymnastics combined with horses. So she competed in that for many years. And then more recently, she does a lot of aerial silks. I mean, she's in her 60s and you've met her with cap delts and six pack
yeah,
abdominals
yeah,
training, 8 to 12 hours a week. That's a standard piece. That's what keeps her going. So that really set a great example for us, my siblings and I growing up, that, hey, if you want to do it, you get after it. And if you're going to do it right. And if you love it, then share it with others. Let's go. Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty cool. And given that you've been bodybuilding since 2013, what's left on the table for you? Like, do you have any more objective things? Like, I know you're all over the intrinsic motivators and the things that actually get you going from a process perspective, but is there anything you want
Yeah.
to tick off?
I mean, look, the WNBF Pro card's still elusive. That's
Is there
this
not a
is
bit of a story with that too? When you did go to Worlds
oh
in
yeah.
20,
I
was
mean,
it
look, I'm
2019?
yeah. So 2019, we obviously Rachel and I went to Worlds. That was a really cool experience. But yeah, I did. I broke the rules, if you will, and used the incorrect tan, of which, to be fair, probably would have been grounds for disqualification. I believe they'll probably be nice to me in saying that, hey, I know you flew from Australia, basically the metaphoric arse of the world, and you've spent a lot of hard-earned cash to come here, so we won't DQ you, but we will deduct points for that. And I don't know exactly where the points for the competitor that got first were, so I don't know if the deduction of points dropped me from first to second, or if it just secured with certitude my second place. But there would have been a possibility that maybe I could have won that middleweight class. and that participant also won the overall. So there was a possibility there, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. Who knows? I mean, hey, great learning experience, and I understand that you can't award someone who breaks the rules. What does that say about your rules? So that's that. Essentially, I used Dream 10 where we came to the United States and they run 110 volt over there, not 240 volts. So our tanning gun just did nothing. And I was like, well, let's bring up the backup. I know Dream 10, we could use that. So we did. Anyway, lesson learned. And then obviously in the last season that the intention was to go to Malaysia and compete there. But with the IFBB Pro card that was collected along the way, the decision was made to, look, let's keep that because they do ask for exclusivity, which is a little bit, it's interesting, an interesting piece. But that's the rule. So we thought, look, let's just marinate on it and come back to it later. So we didn't compete in Malaysia. As to whether I keep the pro card moving forward, as we've discussed, personally, is yet to be seen. If there's opportunities in the IFBB, great. If not, then I'll go back to WMBF. But look, in the end, as you and I have discussed, like it's the process of winning the card. The process en route to winning the card is where all the growth and growth development, figuratively and literally, occurs. And I mean, with the with say the INBA, I've won the pro card, lost the pro card, re-won again. I don't have an attachment to it. Same with the IFBB pro card. With some people, it really upsets. Some people get very upset. Are you kidding me? You got an IFBB pro card, it's a disrespect to the organization. I'm like, whoa, I'm here for natural bodybuilding, and if to be honest, it really quite frustrates me that the IFBB says that, oh, you got to be exclusive to us. And I'm like, I'm exclusive to natural bodybuilding. Yeah, you're going to tell me I can't jump on stage with an athlete, one of our hardworking athletes that's won, or I can't judge another show. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. So there's a possibility I'll lose the pro card before I even have the opportunity to use it. If I do one of those two things in future, we'll see.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, and I'm sure you can agree, compared to the enhanced scene. Like, I think there's one other federation, so making it exclusive makes a little bit more sense. But with natural bodybuilding, there's multiple, and it's been like that for ages. So, you've got things like the Yorton Pro Cup, which is up there as another sort of top end competition, and that would mean that's off the cards as well. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but they're trying to create something.
It as I would describe it, it's kind of, for lack of better terms, it's big dick energy. Like coming in and just saying, you know what, we are the best, and that is it. And yeah, it is a bit unfortunate, but it is what it is. And yes, it makes a whole lot less sense for natural bodybuilding. We just have more opportunity for the enhanced guys. Like, what do you want to do? IFBB or PCA? That's it. So you go where the best is, and that's where the best is. Whereas the same can't be said yet for the natural scene, but things may change. We'll see.
Yeah, they might. But I always find it funny when I hear people that don't have an appreciation or understanding of like where the natural bodybuilding scene is. They almost have no idea that there's this whole network of different federations, and they're just like, oh yeah, NPC coming out with natural bodybuilding's great, provides people with an opportunity to then progress through. And it's like, well, there's a lot of opportunity already that has a great name and arguably does things better than the way IFBB has things set up. So
from a testing perspective,
absolutely.
That's one thing as well. They're going to have to fix that whole 3-year drug free. I'm like, hey, we've got a plethora of research indicating that taking super physiological doses of drugs does yield long-term benefit in terms of satellite cell count, in which case there's an increased proclivity for muscularity beyond the duration of which it's used for quite some time. So 3 years, I'm like, nah. WMBF, I think, still do it, and OCB do the best. 10 years, I'm like, well, I don't think we have longitudinal research of that duration, but I think you and I would say with fair certainty, after 10 years of not using drugs, I'm like, you're probably, there's probably no further benefit there. Like, I mean, as a lifetime natural, and yourself included, I'd be like, I think we would be comfortable with 10 years ago, you used something. Yeah, okay. But 3 years? I'm like, no.
And then also, I would almost give someone a hand, like a round of applause for waiting that long too. I know Eric
Yeah,
Helms did that, and
yeah.
I think, took a pro hormone for like 1 or 2 weeks and waited 10 years supposedly before he was to compete with WMBF. So,
What a
I
gentleman.
think, yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
that's patient.
Yeah. Uh, so, to some degree, if someone were to do that, you'd almost be like, fair play. 10 years of not competing and just waiting until the time comes. That's pretty admirable.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. And I mean, especially in Eric's case, I mean, for his A, his incredible transparency, and B, I mean, back in the early 2000s when pro hormones were the thing, it could have been just rice flour in his tablets. He would have no idea.
Yeah.
But because he is the gentleman he is, he said, look, you know, that's the rules. Let me hang out for 10 years. So credit to him, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, Brandon, is next year the target, like a mid season next year, or is it still a little bit to be confirmed?
Look, that at the moment, that is the plan to jump in the middle of the year. The back end of the year is, it's just a very dense period for, with athletes. And I mean, as to where the season goes, it's really yet to be seen. I mean, if there's IFBB shows available, I'll happily do that. I would happily compete in Europe. I'm still yet to do that. But there's just so much great opportunity in Southeast Asia, and I suppose, well, Central Asia slash Middle East, depending on how things are geopolitically at that time. But there was some great opportunity there as well, and so I'd be happy to sort of keep it around this part of the world. But we'll see what opportunities are there. I will mention that I have considered I have actually considered going back to school again and doing another master's degree, of which would probably bend the timeline a little bit, but that's
Yeah.
all kind of up in the air at the moment. So we'll see what happens there.
And what are the initial thoughts on or area of study?
Probably looking more into food science and technology. It just comes
Okay.
down to what is available on a more online basis, not being full time in Australia, depending how
Yeah.
much lab work there is. So just something I'm exploring. As you know, I maintain a steadfast commitment to learning, as do you, given your line of education also, and I haven't actually studied formally since 2023 when I wrapped up the last master's degree. So I'm kind of ready for another challenge, if you will. So
Was that in sports science, nutrition specifically?
yeah, so I was a master in science. That was with a specialization in sports nutrition, which was great. Really enjoyed that. Direct transfer to coaching, probably not huge. The higher you go up the academic ladder, the less direct transferability there is. This was very research intensive, but it was wonderful to had the opportunity to conduct some research and get a peep under the hood into that world. Obviously, I'm a pragmatist, so I live on the ground, if you will. But it was lovely to explore that area. And obviously, as you know, my wife Rachel, that's what she does as a PhD. So a huge amount of research. So to get a bit of an understanding more into her world was great.
And what does that look like? Because I'm actually interested for myself. Because I thought that maybe there's a big statistical component to that as well, like learning that process, because that's a massive part of research.
Yeah, I mean, I think even in the undergrad, there's always a stat class. The thing with statistics is it is borderline infinitely complex, and you learn what you need to in reference to the research to which you're conducting. And oftentimes, when you're doing, say, a PhD, you would have a statistician on board as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was in my degree there was a stat component, and then when I designed my research, I had great supervisors, and I leaned on my supervisors when it comes to putting in place statistical modeling, because again, there's a million and one directions you could go in when it comes to statistics, and you learn the fundamentals in whatever course you're doing. They'll arm you with with the baseline information, and then you'll kind of specialize in one direction or another depending on what you're trying to elucidate from your research question or questions that yeah.
And I forgot exactly what your paper was, but it was around nutrient strategies for bodybuilders in
Yeah,
particular.
so it was
Is that right?
actually, yeah. So it was an observational paper, that one actually. So we looked at the nutritional intake of elite bodybuilders, natural bodybuilders specifically. So it was more observational in nature. So to be fair, from a statistical perspective, very basic. But yeah, so we conducted interviews for that. Originally, I was hoping to do something maybe lab based, but obviously it was in the middle of COVID, so it was like, all right, great, we're just going to do a retrospective cross sectional examination like this. But it was great. It allowed us the opportunity to see what people are doing outside of our team, etc. And obviously, we currently make inferences from observational papers. It's just more a matter of being explorative, if you will. But it was great. And unfortunately, we didn't publish that. To be fair, probably could have pushed for it in hindsight. And Rachel was a bit, has definitely prodded me on a few occasions in reference to that. But I wasn't sure how much it's going to add to the evidence base, to be honest. So we kind of left it as is.
Was it a novel observational paper in terms of what else was out there, or was it something that was compounding in terms of insight from other things?
I mean, there's not a huge amount of research in bodybuilding. There's
Yeah.
just only a handful of people, you and I included, who love this game enough to maybe do some research on it. So I think, look, in hindsight, it would have been additive. It's just that probably the main piece is we used a software to collect the data, which was RedCap. And one of the settings we had there was that the participants couldn't save it. So what happens is when we appeal to ethics, apply to ethics, for ethics basically, we have to put in how many maximum participants we can take. And the maximum was 50. And what ended up happening is a lot of people, as they went through the interview process, maybe they get pulled away, cook dinner, come back, and it resets, for example. So we had a lot of incomplete data sets, and it's not overly favorable when you're, submitting your paper for to be published, where it's like, hey, 50% of your participants didn't complete the interview. Like, well, so yeah, so it is what it is, but it was a great experience.
Yep. Okay. So there's a little bit of like, oh, maybe this isn't going to represent the greatest quality or utmost uh,
I
layout.
Yeah, I would have loved a bigger data set to work
Yeah.
with. But that's always the case, I think, no matter what research you're doing, particularly in sports science. I talked to Rachel, and she obviously works more in health science, and I'm talking about, we've got 30 participants, and she's like, 30 participants. Like, what can you do with that? I got thousands of data points. And I'm like, yeah, well, I don't have, $1 million in grant funding, but that's just the nature of sports science. It's an emerging field, and we're just not a field that's going to cop much in the way of funding from say government bodies, for example, because hey, in our niche in sports science and nutrition science, we're looking to get people really lean and jacked for stage. That's really not of a big concern for the health of the broader population, right?
Nah, no one really cares that
Unfortunately
much, do
not.
they?
Unfortunately not.
Yeah, yeah. Unless Mr. BK makes big money and starts his own little institute,
No.
we'll always be left to our own demise.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't that be really cool? And I got to hand to the guys at Renaissance Periodization. I mean, I know Mike has personally funded quite a bit of research over the years, which is an amazing contribution because, yeah, it's hard to come by.
Yeah, and especially I can imagine that being quite costly to get things done really well and properly by well experienced researchers as well.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're exploring. Anything lab based is yeah, very costly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think is the biggest component of bodybuilding, particularly. It probably goes across the board that people are just missing or cutting themselves short when it comes to the whole process and to get progress.
So as look, okay, as you know, you and I, like, as you know, because we work very closely with one another. I personally, I do lean into the one percenters, right? When it comes to leveraging the best result. However, we lean into the one percenters at the highest level of bodybuilding. We don't step over $100 bills to pick up pennies, and I see this a lot with new athletes. They're focusing on the one percenters to the point at which it's a distraction from the main things. So, when we coach, we start at the basic level. We meet the athlete where they're at, and when they have nailed the fundamentals, then we'll go up to the one percenters because the quote unquote one percenters getting the meal timing right where it needs to be, ensuring that our sleep is exactly as required, etc. These components are, collectively what makes a good athlete a great athlete at, say, a pro level. But probably the biggest mistake I see is that a lot of these young guys are just focusing on the wrong things, and that most individuals don't invest the time of really in honing the skill of fundamental lifting. As I often put forth, bodybuilding is the art of finding positions that allow us to direct stress to the target tissues, and then having the skill, the mental fortitude to stay there under high degrees of intensity and exertion. And in our coaching, we do a lot of video analysis, and it's one of the first things we'll lean on in the early part of the coaching process, because hey, that's a big rock. If we don't get this right, we're not, I don't really care about the timing of your creatine right now. I care about getting this right first. So don't stress on that. This is where the attention goes. So really the biggest thing I see a lot of people, I suppose you say, overlook is the big rocks. Get these components in check: training, quality, sleep, general nutrition quality, then go to the one percenters.
Yep, absolutely. And I think even though it's harped on so much, the concept of training intensity, it's still missed, or many people still miss the mark. And like you said, video analysis from a coaching perspective is essential in my eyes. And I think I remember you saying yourself that, it's just become more and more apparent, even when you have these athletes of high levels of experience, they're still leaving percentages on the table when it comes to their training quality and intensity, and quality being inclusive of their technique and execution.
Yeah, but it's an evolution, right? Like, you can think back 2 years ago. Did you think you were training hard?
There would have been a definitely a level of me saying, okay, I'm training hard, still a student of the game, but it's in a good spot. And then now I'm like,
Right.
man, what was I thinking saying that, And so, yeah, absolutely. It's just an evolution for sure.
And that was going to be my second question. Do you think you're training harder now? And like, you already answered that question, yes. And I mean, if I think back in my career, I would say the same thing every year. So it is an evolution. You learn how to. So training hard, I suppose, training hard is a perceptive experience, and the only objective metric you have is failure. But you can reach failure too early if your arousal is not in check. So even that has like parameters. Like, I reached failure. I could no longer overcome overcome gravity with concentric contraction. I'm like, yes, but maybe we could have worked with your arousal, coming into that set, and then push that failure point further back. Or maybe we could have adjusted the movement quality a little bit. So, the movement, the range of movement a little bit to direct stress more directly to the target tissue, so that when failure does come about or on approach to it, it's the local tissue that reaches task failure, not some other random tissue. Or maybe we could have standardized the set better with better quote unquote intraset flow or eccentric tempo parameters, etc. But it's a constant evolution. And I mean, watching how you train these days, I mean, to be fair, even when we first started working with Mano, I was like, man, you know how to train. Now we're just going to sprinkle on top that little bit extra and we're going to do it for longer, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that was one thing that, you're talking about. It's almost psychology of training in the set, the set arousal, and what are you doing before the set? What are you thinking about? And I know for me, I'm already thinking about next week's hack squat, and I just did it yesterday. And I think for me that's a one percenter. It's something that's always I'm thinking about, not to my own
Yeah.
detriment, but I'm just excited to get another opportunity to try and one up myself from last session. And yeah, looking back to when I started with you, I definitely it's like tenfold. Maybe
Yeah.
not
That's awesome.
quantitatively 10 times, but the just how it feels and the focus, uh,
Yes.
you know, has just been exacerbated. And I'd love to hear what your sort of psychology around training is like, because I think that is a massive component people undervalue. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, one thing for me is like phone goes away. Like, yeah, I might answer some messages, but it's pretty much just for logging and any important
Yeah.
things that come up. But it's definitely no social media in that training time for me.
And that's certainly ideal. I believe that if you want to really maximize your output on any given task, you want to be single minded with your focus. And one of the key things that I do in my daily routine is I do my best to uh, mentally sectionalize. And I have a few different ways in which I do this. I either sectionalize by way of location, which is pretty simple in the case of the gym. The gym is for training, not for work. The office is for work. But in my office, I do more than one thing. I'll do check ins. I'll do programming, etc. In which case, I might mentally sectionalize by way of like when I'm doing my check-ins, I usually wear my headphones. There's nothing playing. I don't hear myself. It's on silent. It's more a cue for work. And then when I'm doing programming, I usually take them off. I'm like, it's for me, it's changing task. But even in the gym, there's actually research indicating that social media appears to decrease subsequent performance. So I would encourage anyone to minimize your external distraction. And obviously, social media is purposely built to hold your attention. It's a game of attention. So I've actually recently went back to paper logging, which is a little bit of a pain in the backside as I'm going to log it in my app later. But I've done this because I want to create a barrier between myself and external distraction. So the phone's on do not disturb unless it's, okay, it's like I got athletes competing, tomorrow. Okay, of course I'm going to have my notifications on this day. But outside of that, I'm going to separate. I have over the years, my mental approach coming into sets has sort of evolved, but there is actually some pretty awesome research looking at visualization and the effects on training performance. And there's a few ways in which you can do this. You can view it from an external viewpoint, like having an out of body experience, looking in, how the lift should look, etc. Or you can do this internally, like a POV, what it should feel like. And I've used a combination of both in a bid to step into the set with no ambivalence or doubt, as I think that you just cannot. You step into the set with doubt, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. You need to step in, in the right frame of mind. And with arousal, I believe that your training arousal is probably your largest singular determinant of your immediate trainability. But it's about finding a level of arousal that works for you and that is lift specific. In that, if you're too mentally turned up, you're going to have this inconsistencies in eccentric tempo, etc., and things are just going to be a little bit weird. If we're too chill, you're just not going to be able to hit that lift. So you need to be amped enough to perform well, calm enough to think logically and rationally. And then if we take it one step deeper, you can also participate in a degree of intra-set arousal. And I'm known for some weird facial expressions. It's not intentional. Trust me, I wouldn't do that intentionally. But if you look at my lifts, the eccentric is quite like eccentric and then concentric. But so it's calm on the eccentric and it's aggressive on the concentric, and modulating that intraset arousal, and with particular emphasis on maintaining composure at the back of the set. We see this all the time where people are going good, good, and they freak out under the load. And if the set comes on, they start going shit, shit. And then
Breathing
they're starting to
changes and
Yeah, starting to bong
Everything
dive
dropped.
this hack squat. It's like, whoa, what happened? What happened? Amped enough to perform well, calm enough to think logically and rationally. So, I mean, my so general approach is single-minded with focus. I usually take a minute or so to set up mentally for my big lifts. I need that. I do a lot of visualization coming into the lift, how it should feel, how it should look externally. And then when I'm in the set, to be honest, I often have headphones on with no music. The intention is just to be with myself and the lift. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love all
How
of
about you?
those things. Yeah. Sometimes I will do a whole session just with my headphones on, no music as well. Like just to drown out that outside sound of the gym music and just to sort of again hone in on what's going on inside.
Yeah.
Um, I know with some of the education we've been doing in psychology and sport at the moment at uni, they're things like pre-performance routines are really
Yes.
impactful. It's sort of a combination of, like you were talking about visualization techniques as well. It's sort of all uh, joined together in terms of like not one is necessarily far better than the other, but if we use a combination, we're probably going to uh, grasp the different mechanisms that they maybe lean on. Um, but I mean, for me, there's certain songs that the words have no relation whatsoever. They just heighten my arousal, and
Yeah.
at times it can be unbelievable the type of energy that it brings to the set. I think one song that's sort of getting me going at the moment is a Taylor Swift song. Honestly, have no idea how I came across it, but it
But if
just
it works, it works.
yeah, man, it just multiplies my my aggression coming into that set.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't know if you're similar, but I've had experiences when I definitely lean on these a bit more during prep where I was younger. It was sporting related experience. Maybe things didn't go my way, and I sort of have leaned in on that feeling, that emotional feeling before
Yeah.
sets at times, saying like this isn't going to happen as a
Yeah.
result of poor performance. I'm going to make sure that my performance is where it needs to be so that emotional feeling doesn't come back.
I think on that topic, right? I think most performance psychologists would prefer to lean into the positive, but I believe that the contrary to popular belief, it's okay to have motive, to find motivation in things that are not positive. It's like, for example, um, I hate famine. That's my motivation for like giving to those in need, right? I'm like, okay, that's not a positive thing, but I'm going to make something good out of it. So, I mean, you can lean into that obviously in your lifting. Like that was a really uncomfortable situation. So like, man, this work is going to eliminate that possibility again. Like, hey, if it works for you, then roll with it. Sure.
Yeah, yeah. The specific experience I remember is it was a game of soccer. It was a
Yeah.
draw, and it was against this team we were sort of an underdog team, but we always performed well against
Yeah.
this team, and it was so close to the point. It was like, oh, maybe we're going to get them this time. Maybe we're going to pip them, and then they just beat us at the end of the game. And that feeling of like I've given everything that I could,
Yeah.
and it still didn't turn out the way that I wanted. And then I just remember that being overwhelmed with emotions. I think I was 12 or so at the time. And then like dad comes in, he's like, it's all right, mate. Like, you gave it your all and you sort of take that into
Yeah.
it's a little bit extreme potentially, but things that I sort of lean on and maybe that's what makes me a little bit individual per se.
Hey, if it works, it works. Interestingly, like I think sometimes sport in general can be a little bit unfair like that because yeah, you can give your 100% to the process. It doesn't guarantee the outcome, uh, which is again why I think it's nice to like come back to the intrinsic motivation as the primary source. But again, like extrinsic stuff, you should use it strategically. Just the only time I see it being a problem, it's the only source of motivation. I mean, we've seen this before, with competitors, where it's the only thing they can think of is that podium finish. And that makes the process of winning or losing more rich. They win, they're on top of the world. If they lose, they're beneath it. But if you're in the middle where you love the process, of course we want to win, definitely. Then we can, when we do win, it's like, okay, that's awesome. If we don't, we're like, okay, back to the drawing board we go. Like, what can we find to improve upon and sort of roll from there? But I've
Yeah.
definitely used some external stuff in certain portions of my contest preparation where I'm like, man, maybe it's 5 weeks out and it's the last big dig for the contest prep before we start recovery, peaking. And it's like, okay, second set of RDLs. Do I want to do this? No. And all I'm thinking is like, a hard day is a good day because if the conditions are right for progress, and I'm gonna make sure the conditions are right for progress. And I'm like, there's probably a competitor out here that's gonna miss this set or this rep. I'm like, not me, man. So you just kind of push that button when you need to. Okay, cool, got me through the set.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Move on.
I can see it not being healthy to do that for every single set. And like you were saying
Yeah, yeah.
before, you're not going to get amped out of your mind for a set of bicep curls, most likely. It's probably going to
Probably a
be
bit wasteful.
yeah. You're probably going to lean that to like a heavy dead, heavy
Yeah,
squat,
yeah.
something that's requires a bit more mental focus.
Yeah.
On the topic of contest prep, what do you think was maybe one of the hardest components of your last contest prep?
You know what? Overall, I'd say the last contest preparation was the easiest I've ever done. And that's in part a product of, there's a variety of things here. Experience, and the more preps you do, you just get comfortable in the dieting condition. Because people panic in the dieting condition if they're not exposed to it enough. I'm hungry, oh my gosh, like I'm hungry, I just can't escape the hunger. As time goes on, you get more used to that. Okay, I'm a bit hungry. It's a physiological response to the dieting condition. Cool, and you accept that. The hardest thing in the last contest preparation was actually that quad injury that I had. So at 5 weeks out, it was we flown to Perth for ICN Nationals, and I was training there. It was flipping cold at Doherty's gym. Oh my gosh, it was cold, and I'm not used to the cold at all, living in the tropics full time. And it was a combination of, we're operating on a limiter here, limited recovery ceiling. We're balancing our desire for stimulus, requirement for recovery. We're balancing things well. Everything's in check. We go to Perth, sleep 2 nights, really not so great. Steps much higher than usual on uneven ground, like groceries around, that kind of thing. Early morning training, a little bit limited for time, one less warm-up set. Ooh, that didn't feel good in the leg press. Now, nothing catastrophic, grade 1 tear, presumably to the vastus medialis oblique, but enough to shake the boat. It's a warning shot. Like, hey, check your variables. Okay, when you're controlling your variables as well as we do, it's easy to evaluate what series of errors contributed to it. But it very much rocks you from a morale perspective. That happens in the off season, which it probably wouldn't with the resources behind you. It's easy to manage. But in contest prep, I'm like, hey, how many years I've been doing this for, and towards this show, and I'm 5 weeks out. But then, you pull back, take a moment, think logically and rationally. Okay, what are my A variables? What are things I can control to manage this? And then you get to work. But there was that moment there where it was like, ooh, morale-wise, I had to kind of mentally grapple with the fact that I'm not going to be jumping on the hat squat in 3 days' time. I'm going to have to work around this. And that was the hardest piece, yeah.
Yeah. And how was trainability for the rest of contest prep?
It was a matter of really working around it as strategically as I could. So I was able to do, obviously, all of my hinges, knee flexion movements, leg extensions I was able to do with a partial range and a lighter load. So that involves some blood flow restriction training for a little bit there. And obviously I was doing as much as I could with my passive recovery modalities, sleep, relaxation, where I could, and obviously some manual therapies as well. By the time I got to the first show of the season, just 5 weeks later, I was pretty close to 100%. But it was a frustrating injury, and I wasn't hack squatting or anything at the back end of contest prep. It was a bit more sort of segmented. I was doing a little bit more volume for leg extensions and a very kind of hip bias leg press at the time, and that was all I was using to hold on to quads, and it was enough. So happy with that.
Yeah. Well, it looks like it was enough as well in terms of
Oh,
the
thank you.
look and the muscle. Did you think so, or did you think there was maybe 1%?
No, I actually think
Component?
it was totally fine. I didn't see
Yeah.
any difference there. It's quite fascinating when you have an injury that's specific to a local tissue. The atrophy is so incredibly fast. So within a matter of a couple of days, I'm like, wow, that VMO is definitely a little bit smaller. But as soon as I could start actually loading end range extension again on a leg extension, within a matter of 2 or 3 exposures, I was like, wow, that's really come back very quickly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an issue there in the end.
Don't panic. It's all good. We're gonna be okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, you. I mean, this is why most competitors are going to have coaches, because you need someone who's going to keep you cool, calm, collected, and tactical. Okay, hey coach, I'm pretty hungry. I'm feeling okay. Like adherence wise, I'm pretty hungry. Is this normal? Yes, this is normal. Relax. We're okay. Cool. Okay, I've got this injury. Okay, well, one is why did this happen? Back forth, back forth. Now what do we do? Do we need to stress about this, or what can we modulate? Cool. You stay tactical and focus on your A variables, and that was a good exercise in that.
Yeah, but even some coaches might have that very strategic ability to break things down and go, okay, what happened? You're not sending over a protocol straight away that's requiring all this thought from the athlete and having to stress about getting X, Y, Z. It's calm, simple, like
Yeah,
basic questions, and then a very, you know, a great sense of confidence that you then give that individual afterwards as well
definitely.
for what they need to do.
Yeah, yeah. As I often put forth, I mean, this is just a broad piece here, but in order to give instruction, you first need to listen. And I think listening is a very important trait of effective coaching. Many coaches jump in there and they want to straight away put forth their expertise, but I mean, are you using the right tool for the situation? You don't know until you stop, pause, listen, and have that back and forth. And to not to go off on a tangent, but it's one of the things that I do, a challenge that I see with online coaching, particularly one, due to the communication mediums used in online coaching, and two, due to the fact that online coaching has become profitable. When things become profitable, you see people who just work on volume. So coaching on the online space, if we're not careful, is very prescriptive. Just do this, just do this. That's not coaching. ChatGPT can do that crap. It needs to be a collaboration. And this is where online coaching, there's some challenges there with being collaborative, but it's much easier now. We've got communication mediums like this, got instant message, etc. But it's necessary to take in that detail and then build the way forward. Like yesterday, I had a debrief with one of our athletes, from Belgium. Shout out to Jonathan, epic gentleman. But the whole point of that was to take a moment to go, look, we did great at this show, but what did we? But let's discuss like what can we do better, etc. We have some ammunition for the next bit of time to refine. But anyhow, I digress. Listening, important.
No, that's absolutely a valuable point. And yeah, it's an interesting landscape with the evolution of artificial intelligence for sure.
That is, that is.
All right, man. Well, unless you want to chat about anything else, I'm pretty happy with that as an episode for today.
Jacob, I could throw a bunch of questions at you, but we might say that for another episode. But
Oh,
I
a
will say
repeat.
thank you. Let's do it. But it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, awesome, man. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I will be, it's not like I'm not going to chat to you in a while, B, but I'll see you soon. Oh,
Absolutely,
and it sounds like we're going to be doing repeats, so hell yeah.
would love that. Definitely. Thanks, guys.
Right. Thanks, man.